In 1986, Margaret Thatcher's government was looking for a way to encourage savers to put money into the stock market. They came up with the PEP, the Personal Equity Plan. This allowed you to save up to £6,000 per tax year and pay no underlying tax and no capital gains tax. The PEP was a huge success, and by 1992, the same government had introduced a further single company PEP, which allowed you to put £9,000 in total into a tax-free investment. In 1999, Tony Blair's government felt that the PEP needed a facelift, and so they came up with the ISA, the Individual Savings Account. The ISA was actually smaller than its predecessor at just £7,000, and it was less tax efficient, as we will explain in this short video. Nonetheless, the people of Britain grew to love their ISAs.
Today, there is over £244 billion in ISAs in the UK.
But what's all the fuss about? Well, join us now as our intrepid treasure hunter seeks to read the ISA treasure map. In our last series, we were on the beach. Today, we're in a different location, at the stables. Okay, so my daughter Caris and I are now going to try and attempt to show you the difference between one investment that is wrapped within a tax-efficient wrapper, such as an ISA, and one investment that is not wrapped. So we have two identical buckets here, Caris, don't we? These are horse feed buckets that we've filled to the brim with water. And we'd like you to imagine that they're actually full of £15,240 of money. That's the exact amount that you can currently put into an ISA in this 15-16 tax year. So here we have our first bucket. They're identical, but this one here we're going to call our ISA. So this one is wrapped. This one, however, is not wrapped. It doesn't have a tax protection around it in any way. It's just a standard investment. And what will happen, Caris?
There goes the tax.
There goes the tax, that's right. If you're a basic rate taxpayer, you will lose 18% capital gains tax on a standard investment that isn't wrapped. And if you're a higher rate taxpayer, there goes more tax heading down the tax drain. You're going to say goodbye to 28%. So wrapping your investments within an ISA means that on a like-for-like basis, the ISA will perform better. That's a good boy, good lad. Oh yes, that's good. Good boy. Good boy, Thomas. As with any investment, you need to look beneath the surface to know what you're dealing with. Back in 1999, Gordon Brown started taxing dividends at 10% within PEPs. That was rolled forward, and by 2004, ISAs were also paying a 10% underlying tax on any shares. Many people often think that ISAs are completely tax-free, but they're not. If you hold cash or fixed interest securities known as bonds within your ISAs, then they are tax-free. But any equities are taxed at 10%. That's not a bad thing. ISAs are still incredibly tax efficient. But having said that, with a bit of clever tax planning, you're able to look beneath the surface and move the right assets within your ISAs. So let's imagine that you've come perhaps up to retirement and you have a lump of money that you need to make last you for the rest of your life. One of the things you might want to do is to use your ISA allowance. However, what happens if you have more money to invest than this year's ISA allowance? Well, Caris and I have got a demonstration here. What we have on our left is the ISA. This is a bale of haylage in this case, and that is what we've set up now with the £15,240. However, the rest of our clients' portfolio at this stage is in these bales of haylage here. So you can see that at the beginning, like a lot of people's financial plans, they will end up with a lot of money that's not in the most tax efficient environment and a little that is in the tax efficient ISA. However, with some clever planning, what we can do is this. As you can see, with a bit of hard effort and diligence, we've been able to ISA every single lump of the money over time. In this instance, we've got 7 years worth of ISA allowances. They're quite heavy actually, and that amounts to well over £106,000 of ISAs that we've managed to make, basically into one giant ISA. So we know that we can put our money into an ISA every tax year. However, what happens if you forget? Well, what I've got here is a string of buckets going back in time. We've got the first year here, which we've just done, the year before, a year previously that we forgot, and then years before all filled up. Well, the ISA rules are actually very, very simple. Use it or lose it. So if you are close to the end of the tax year, don't fall asleep and forget to fill your ISA up, or it will be empty and lost forevermore. It's a common misconception that once you've bought your ISA fund, you're stuck with it. Over the years, I've heard many people saying that they're disappointed in ISAs when actually it's the underlying funds that have underperformed. If you do decide to sell your ISA because of underperformance, don't lose the wrapper. It's possible to transfer it. Now, Caris here has some horse feed, which is driving our horses mad. So Caris is going to pretend that that's the fund, and she's got the actual ISA wrapper. So Caris, if you'd like to get rid of the ISA fund, we can give that back to the fund manager and say, no thanks, your fund hasn't performed very well. We can then transfer across the ISA wrapper to a new fund manager, and the new fund manager can then pour in their fund into the same ISA wrapper, meaning that we've successfully transferred the wrapper, but we've changed the underlying funds. So you've worked hard all your life to build up your ISA allowance. Caris and I here are going to demonstrate with these buckets how you can actually pass on your ISA allowance to your wife or husband. Now, up until very recently, if you were to pass away, your ISA allowances died with you. This was a terrible shame, as at the very time that your husband or wife perhaps needed the most tax efficiency, they lost effectively half of the household's ISA allowances. But good old George has brought in the inheritable ISA allowance. And in this instance, if we say that the husband has sadly passed away, his assets can be put into his wife's ISA. You shuffle that under there. Okay. Oh, we lost a bit. There we are. And the two ISA allowances can actually go together so that in this instance, the wife has both ISA allowances. So today we've learnt that ISAs are an incredibly tax efficient way of building up your money for the future. But what about when you come to actually finally take it? Well, you don't have to have the whole thing all at once. You can just enjoy one piece at a time. There are no tax returns to complete. You're in an ability to spend it as you wish. I hope you've enjoyed our video today. Please feel free to pass it on to anybody that you care about. And if you have any further questions, please contact us via our website at Thomas & Thomas. You're stuck with it. And I hear many horror stories over the years of people. The same to you, old chap.